Okay, for today's lesson, we'll be covering how tourism affects the society of places, right? In terms of tourism development. So, whenever you develop tourism in a location, there will be impact in terms of how that particular society is run, how that particular society used to exist, how they used to have certain practices, and all these things may encounter some form of change, either due to direct intervention or interaction rather with tourists, or due to the demands that the tourism industry has placed on the people living there, and therefore they have to change their lifestyle. Okay, now this kind of change is not always going to be positive, right? You have to understand that there are times where the change is actually negative. Okay, so one key part that we will be, one key thing that we'll be looking today is to look at these positive and negative social impacts of tourism. Okay, so on the positive side, there are two key areas we're going to look at. How we're looking at how we can actually enhance your cultural ecosystem services to help preserve and help maybe even invigorate what was already there, that may over time be viewed as something passe, something that is not hip, something that the young people don't want to do because there's just no future in the past, right? So then, of course, there's the negative social um, impacts of tourism that we can also look at, right? Things like commodification of cultural practices, art forms, right? Cultural clashes as a result of this new push that tourism has brought about, and also rise in crime, which is very, very common in tourist areas, right? So cultural preservation and enhancing cultural eco services. So for those of you who have actually completed the earlier lesson, right, you would have found two videos relating to this shadow puppetry um, that is in China. Right now, this is a culture that was gradually being lost because there is no interest by the local, the younger people. So you take a look at this picture here, you will be able to see that actually everybody who is there seems to be quite senior. It's not because they are laborers and they naturally look old. Okay, I'm very sure they're not 40 years old. They could be in their 50s, 60s, right? And they're enjoying a wonderful cultural performance like this. For the young people, of course, like if you are a teenager this modern day and age, what would be your form of entertainment? It would be TikTok. It will be, yeah, it would be the TikTok, right? Right, TikTok, or even if you're a little more for the long form content, then maybe IG Shorts. Well, it's a lot longer, but okay, or you like to watch YouTube, you like to watch Netflix, Disney Plus, whatever. You will not go and sit in a dingy little shack like this and watch backlit puppetry. Okay? But for a tourist, this is wow, this is something new, it's something out of the ordinary, something that's precious, right? So what happens? You can then monetize, okay? You weaponize your culture and you monetize it. Okay, how? You make it something that can earn money for you. Okay, it's of great interest to tourists. So what can you do? You charge them and show them a show, right? You put it up as something like a play, cultural play, local cultural play. Tourists will be willing to pay, right? Because for them, this is not run as a meal entertainment. This is one in a lifetime experience. So they'll be willing to pay. And when money is injected into this economy, this is preserved. Young people take a look at it. Young people understand it, and they view it as something that has a future, right? And the monetary rewards are a lot better than maybe working in some handphone factory in Shenzhen, right? Churning out iPhone after iPhone, Samsung after Samsung, right? So this is one of the key things that we can look about in terms of cultural preservation, how tourism actually helps preserve cultures. Okay? Enhance cultural ecosystem services, think about it. It does give you an opportunity to appreciate the beauty of nature, right? It gives you an opportunity to learn through nature itself, right? To relax, enjoy leisure in nature, and also to connect, right? Spiritually, maybe religiously, or just spiritually if you're not a religious person, right? With nature itself. So these are all perks that come about with this, right? So the other second example you have in your SLS as well as in your textbook is Sanjiayuan National Park. So it is a very nice, beautiful, scenic national park that allows tourists to go through and level up their aesthetic, educational, recreational, and spiritual benefits. Okay, so I will not belabor the point. These are things that you have and you can read through. So will not belabor the point, but remember Sanjiangyuan National Park, right? It gives an opportunity for enhancing cultural ecosystem services. Now let's talk about the fun stuff, okay? The negative social impacts, right? When you have commodification, right? You get preservation. We talked about this. We talked about weaponizing it, your culture earlier on. So when you weaponize it and you earn money out of it, you monetize it. Is it all good, right? And culture crashes. What is preserved, what is not preserved. Of course, rising crimes, which is the juiciest one. We should put out for latest. Okay, so what happens when you weaponize your cultural practice and earn money out of it? Okay, now do you retain everything? Think about the shadow puppetry show. Okay, the full show could be upwards of an hour and a half, right? As a tourist, right? Would you once again, okay, same question, would you want to be cooped up in that little shack, non-air conditioned, right? Probably doesn't smell too good, with a couple of locals, right? And they are putting up that full 1.5 hour shadow puppet show for you in a language you don't really understand. Okay, so think about that. What will happen? You would want to see it, you want to have an experience of it, but you don't really want the full deal, do you? Right? It's just like you want to watch Chinese movie, you want to watch Jay Chou concert, but you want to have subtitles because your Chinese just cannot. So when you think of it that way, this will have an impact on the culture practice, because who is holding the money now? Since once you monetize the cultural practice, when you monetize the performance and art form, right? You are interested not only in retaining the full version of it in its cultural value, its religious value, in its value within your country, within your tribe, within your racial group, within that whatever group you're dealing with. You're not interested in that anymore. You're more interested in the money that comes in. So when the people who provide the money tell you, I can't just show me the nice stuff, what are you gonna do? You're gonna cut it, right? You're gonna cut it up, you're gonna stitch it together, you're gonna show the bells and whistles of the show, and the rest of it, anyway, these fellas don't understand Mandarin. Or worse still, may not even read Mandarin. Be one of the thousands of Chinese dialects out there, every one of which is as valuable as the 普通话 that the Chinese government is pushing as the general language for Chinese people. So what you end up doing is you end up having selective retention. Okay, when you have selectively retaining information, you are selectively choosing to omit things to do things. So it may take 3 generations, it may take 4 generations, but eventually enough generations will have gone by to the point where nobody will know what the whole show used to look like. Okay, of course, in this day and age, you can tell me, well, Mr. Code, somebody will have a recording of it, right? The full 3 hour show recorded somewhere on YouTube or somewhere on one of those whatever platforms that you're on. Yes, you're not wrong, but nobody will look at it. Okay, because that's cultural practice. That's not what people are interested in once you monetize cultural practice and art forms. So keep that in mind. Okay, while you're retaining, which is good, right? Something that may have been lost anyways, right? You were left with that 3 YouTube videos on the obscure part of the internet. You have lost it, but now you don't lose it, but you don't retain all of it. Okay, so it's a trade-off. Cultural clashes, right? Your tourists may be insensitive. Always remember that tourists always think they own everything because they are the ones with the money. They're bringing the money to the economy, so they behave like as if they are better, like they are a better grade of human being, right? So what happens? They're insensitive to the local practices. Their behavior may be offensive to locals. And when you look at examples, I think a very common one was during the pandemic, when it was spreading before they had all the tourism claims, and as well as when they reopened, right? This resistance to mask wearing was a problem, especially in Asia. It's a lot of Americans, the freedom for all, my own rights. My rights is the only rights that I care about. So when they started traveling and they had this problem wearing masks, right? It created a lot of this clash in terms of practices, right? More maybe something more pertinent to you. Um, when we always hear about horrible Chinese tourists, right? The mainlander Chinese tourists. So what exactly is horrible about them is actually some of the insensitive practices that they have. Because back home in where they are from, in China, the way they communicate with one another may be a bit more abrasive because they are living, they are not, everybody is as cultured and as educated. So they still come into money, right? Money is money. So if, when you're rich enough, you have enough disposable income, you have enough leisure time, right? Your demand factors are there. You will come and you will be a tourist. So you bring all your offensive bad behavior with you, right? So there have been many cases that we've seen in social media and as well as news reports of uh, tourist areas objecting to the presence of Chinese tourists, right? Within the playlist, there is one video of a I think a shop owner in Kyoto who chased a pair of Chinese tourists away from his restaurant because they were offensive to him, right? Not really like they were threatening him, but he said the way they were conducting themselves within the restaurant, the way they were eating, it was uncouth and it was really horrifying to him. So he chased them off. He didn't want them to pay. He didn't want to take their money, right? So understand that sometimes these kind of behaviors, right, the cultural clash can be very serious, right? It can be to the point where tourists get turned away from a particular service in the area that they are having the tourism in. Okay, so this is important. Keep this in mind. And finally, rising crimes. Now, tourists are really population targets. You are a target. Okay, you're in a place where you don't know as well as the locals, right? So on the smallest level, you have scammers. Okay, you have scammers who will flock to tourist sites. You will have very famous one with the European Friendship Band scam, right? Then of course there's the Bangkok Grand Palace scam. These videos are all also found in the playlist of the Geography Singapore channel. So please go and watch the few example videos so you have an awareness of how these scams actually take place. So if you are choosing to talk about this scam in an essay question or in a short answer question, you have a clearer idea without having to mug and memorize every single thing in your SLS or textbook. Okay, so make use of the videos, right? I have an understanding of it, understand what you're looking at, and it will be a much more pleasant experience when you're dealing with your exams. Okay, now I want to end with this one very important idea here, this concept of unequal tourist encounters. Okay, always remember when there's a meeting point between the tourists and the locals, right? There's a power balance, there's power imbalance. I'm sorry, right? And the locals, they tend to be dependent on the tourist dollar, either directly or indirectly. Okay, more pressure if they're dependent directly on tourist dollar, less if they are indirectly dependent. But there is definitely going to be pressure. Okay, the locals will always be marginalized when there is a specific resource they're looking at and the locals and the tourists both demand it, the locals will be marginalized. Okay, generally because the locals will not be charged as much as the tourists. Okay, so the tourists bring in more profit for the larger economy. So it is not unusual for humans, capitalistic as we are, to pivot towards entertaining, giving way to the one who is holding the monetary power. Okay, in this case, tourists. So this resource allocation thing is a very important one. I don't know whether I've mentioned this in class, but there are some very pressing examples near us. So if you go to Batam, right, about, okay, this has to be pre-COVID, about the 2010s to about 2015, 16, right, Batam was facing severe water shortage. Okay, so what they had to implement was they implemented this water rationing system for the local communities in Batam. Okay, water rationing. But at the same time, right, you have tourists who go to five-star hotels, or rather, yeah, five-star hotels who have access to fresh water all day. They have swimming pools, bathtubs that are filled to the brim, you know. So the resource is very precious. The resource is water. Everybody on the island needs the water. Who gets it? The tourist gets it. Okay, the locals, well, maybe with the more tourist dollars, you can buy and drink green tea instead of plain water. Right. So keep that in mind. This is one of the key problems when you're looking at this. So with that, we come to the end of this part of the lesson. Take some moments, go back and review your SLS guide, fill your textbook, okay, as we prepare for the final bit on tourism.